I've said for years, hey, we've got a year-long game fishing fishery in New Zealand. I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers just don't stack up. Like, there's not a fisherman in a commercial tuna fisherman in the world that fishes an 8 new moon cycle. Like, I've done literally millions of hooks in that fishery. I used to handline the swordfish up there, and you could guarantee at 2 o'clock in the morning you'd hear this bang, 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 bang as the floats went over the handrail, you know. And I'd be yelling to the crew, you know, oi, oi, get up, you know. And of course they wouldn't get up. The thing with puka is look for the nastiest piece of ground on the hill. So if you're on a seamount, look for those steep vertical faces.
In this show, I chat with the legend Tony TK Walker. TK Offshore Fishing, for a lot of you will know him. TK has spent 40 years on the water, and he often spends more time on the water than he does off each year. We talk about the tactics for catching deep water species such as bluenose, hardpucker and bass. We have a deep dive into bluefin tuna fishing, but we also talk about the moon cycle and its effect on the water and why there is good times to fish and not such good times to fish. Get the net, tight lines, loose lips. Welcome to Get the Net, the Kiwi fishing podcast where the yarns are as wild as the waters we fish. Hosted by Nick, a self-confessed multiple-time member of the Caught Bugger All Fishing Club. This show dives into the epic stories, top tactics and must-have gear from New Zealand's best fishos. Each episode we chat with legendary anglers about their most insane catches, the techniques they swear by and the gear they can't live without. Whether you're chasing marlin offshore, flicking soft baits in the shallows or just keen to learn from the pros, this is the place for real fishing talk. No gatekeeping, just good banter, expert tips and the odd fishing fail. So grab a cold one, get the net and let's talk fishing.
Yeah, boy, we got a marlin on!
All right, well, I'm Tony Walker, commonly known as TK, and I grew up in the fishing industry basically. My grandfather was a crayfisherman out of Whangamata. I think in those days he got 6p a pound for his frozen craytails. He left his holding pot. The holding pot was literally tied at the wharf, you know, so there was a lot more honesty in those days. And then Dad's been in the fishing industry basically his whole life as well. And so he opened up the fish shop on the wharf in Tauranga. In those days it was a wholesale fish market. So I essentially grew up in the industry. You know, even if I wanted pocket money, I'd have to be out the back pin boning snapper and that sort of thing. I remember over school holidays, I used to get the shop ute, and there was a way where you could do wharf sales if you sold from your vessel. So we used to get the dinghy off the boat,
Put that on the ute.
put it on the back of the ute. I'd go into Dad's shop, I'd weigh up all the snapper, whole snapper. So I'd weigh it all up, bag it, write the price on it, and I'd go around all the motor camps in Mount Maunganui and that sort of thing. Drop in, the lady at the reception at motor camp would give her a snapper, and she'd just announce on the intercom, righto, the fish truck's coming around, and I'd just drive slowly around the motor camp, and they'd just come up, have a look at the inside, you know, so I'd have all the ice inside the dinghy. They'd have a look at the bag, the snapper, and say, right, I'll have that one, and pay me cash. So that was my pocket money. You know, I never paid Dad for the fish, all the ice, or the bags, but that's basically how I made my pocket money. So I sort of grew up in the industry.
Yeah, so you really were literally born into fishing.
Yeah, it's part of our life story. I tried to break away from it, so I did my apprenticeship as a builder. And once I did my apprenticeship, I shot over to the Gold Coast and spent 3 years over there surfing. And when I got back, Dad just drew me straight in, so straight back into the fishing. And so I started snapper longline out of Whangamata, and that was in '82. And within about 10 years, I was offshore, and I've been offshore ever since.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met you, you said basically you live on the water.
Well, it's kind of like that. So I sort of average 250 to 280 days a year at sea. So essentially I come back to land to reprovision and go back to sea. So, you know, I've got a wonderful family, you know, Cam's here, and it's hats off to my wife Rhonda. But I essentially live at sea, but retiring very soon,
And recently you've been doing a bit more recce stuff as well, which is
I have,
cool.
yeah. So, it's been, and it's just through the social media, I mean, that just, I don't even know how it happened. I mean, when I first started posting on Facebook, I knew absolutely nothing about Facebook, didn't have a clue. So I'd put up pictures, and the whole idea was so that my wife and the kids and
see what you're up to.
Yeah, the crews could see what we're doing at sea. And all of a sudden these people were commenting on my post. I'm going, who the hell's that, you know? So yeah, and it's just grown from there, you know, and I guess it's because I'm offshore and I'm doing the big, you know, the blue nose and harpooker. Like for the first half of my career, it was blue nose and harpooker. And then I started doing the tuna and the swordfish, you know. So it's just grown from there, mate. Now it's just gone crazy, so.
Yeah, you must always pinch yourself when you look at the number
Oh,
of likes and follows.
yeah, you know, like we're over 500,000 followers now, so it's crazy. But again, there a lot of the guys have become good mates, you know. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Well, I think fishing really is a thing you do with your mates.
Yeah, yeah, and it's part and parcel of being a Kiwi. You know, I think it's the biggest sport in New Zealand.
Yeah, I was one of the other interviews I did the other week with Wes Globite. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is New Zealand's biggest recreational sport.
Yeah. So no, it's good. And the way I look at it is, as you say, they're all mates. You know, they're all good bunch of guys. All got the same sort of mindset. You know,
Exactly.
and they're all passionate about it. So, you know, and that's the way I look at it. If I can share information with those guys and make their experience a bit better, that's a good thing.
Well, it's a super tough sport to get into. Whether you know you just want to feed your family, or
Yeah.
you know you want to get right into sport fishing.
And you do. I mean, you've got, there's that many things you can do. I mean, Cam's passionate about his trout fishing. You know, that's his my time. You know, so he'll go down the stream down at Taupo, and no cell phone, just a bit of time to relax. And a lot of people are like that. You know, they work their butts off during the week. They get the weekend to go fishing by themselves or with a couple of mates, and just enjoy it. Yeah. Well, that used to be me, mate. You know, I used to watch my phone, and as that last little signal dropped off the phone, just relax.
Yeah.
Get on with the business, you know. Yeah. So no, it's been an epic journey, and I'm still enjoying it. But yeah, the body's getting a bit sore, so.
Oh, I totally understand. Like,
Yeah.
So. I mean, I go for a couple of big days at the sea, and it takes it out of you.
Well, I get the wobbles when I get in. So you have a shower and just and there's times where I actually hardly even get on the wharf. You know, I'll get on the wharf and go and do stores, and you're gone again.
This episode of Get the Net is brought to you by absolutely no one. But if you're a brand out there and you like what we're doing, you're keen to see us keep it rolling, slide to the DMs. We're keen to chat with good buggers like yourself that just love fishing. Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, but maybe let's talk a little bit about what you're doing at the moment. You're up in Darwin?
So I'm up in Darwin and I'm fishing in a trap fishery. So essentially think deadliest catch, but instead of targeting crabs, we're targeting tropical fish or snapper, you know. And it's,
tropical snapper.
Yeah, tropical snapper. And it's all for local market, none of it's exported. Yeah. And it's an interesting fishery actually, bloody interesting. It's hard to get my head around it actually because it's completely different from the way New Zealand fish act. You know, the way it works over there, after 4 o'clock, you don't bother shooting your traps because the fish go off the bite. I still haven't got an answer for that. Whether it's, you know, I've watched the Blue Planet series and that sort of thing, and whether it's because the sharks come out at night and all the bottom dwelling fish will go and hide, I don't know. But so we can't fish at night. They've got different bite patterns. Yeah, it's a very bizarre fishery. So, and again, for me,
a good challenge though.
Well, and that's the whole thing, mate. That's the thing I enjoy as the challenge of the fishery. You know, it's something new for me. You know, I've done your bottom, you know, deep sea bottom lining for blue nose, pooker, and ling. I've done the tuna, and this is a whole new fishery for me. And new species like. My first couple of trips, every trap that come up, I'm going, what the bloody hell are those? Oh, well, that's actually your target species, TK. You know, so, yeah. So it's been interesting, and of course, great bunch of guys up there, great company, great support from the company. So, yeah, it's been interesting.
I think, look, we got a bunch of stuff that I want to cover off with you. So, let's just shoot from the top, and you know, you really cut your teeth as a blue nose harbooker deep sea fisherman. Yeah. And we'll come at it a little bit for the rec guys. Tell us a little bit about the seasons and about prospecting for those fish. And
now.
What those, okay, yep.
Now's the season.
Middle of May?
Yeah, May, June, July, your blue nose start to come on, and I'm hoping to get out in the next few days and go and have a go at blue nose, because my favourite seafood is blue nose roe, smoked blue nose roe. Just absolutely love it. My family grew up on blue nose. I remember a time I brought some beautiful bass home, you know, And my wife, you know, it was a beautiful bass. We had it for dinner. My wife said, "Oh, that was lovely, darling, but it's not quite blue nose, is it?" And I thought, "Oh, you spoiled lady." So the kids grew up on blue nose.
It is pretty special, the blue nose.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I absolutely. And it's, to be honest, it's still my favourite fish.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. So, and I started doing that late '80s. I moved offshore, and I've been offshore ever since. And it was quite good actually, because at that time, in the commercial fishing industry, basically the tuna fishery just started in New Zealand, and so that was beginning of the '90s. A lot of the fleet went out chasing tuna, and there was myself and another guy, Pete Sheaf, from Tauranga. We stayed just doing the blue nose and harpooker, and at that time I was up at the Three Kings, and we started going down the west coast, and we basically had that fishery to ourselves for a whole decade. You know, so I spent a whole decade up at the Three Kings. And fascinating fishing. You know, found some amazing places, and we had a lot of fun too. You know, I used to handline the swordfish up there.
Have you ever had one of those days where everything went sideways? Maybe the weather turned, the fish weren't biting, or you spent half a day tying someone else back to the ramp. Well, that's what the Caught Bugger All Fishing Club is all about. Real yarns from fishos who went out, gave it a crack, and came home with a story rather than a feed. Thanks to the crew at Globite, we're turning a rough day into a win. Send us your best Caught Bugger All yarn, a voice note or a selfie video under 2 minutes, and you'll get a shout out on the show. Each month, one unlucky legend will score a Globite cap and a lure to help turn the tide next time.
So at night time, you know, we knew they were there. And this was before the days of your deep drops, which just, you know, changed the whole fishery for the recreational guys.
Yeah.
You know, traditionally in those days, if you wanted to target swordfish, you went out and drifted at night, you know, when they come up to the surface. So in those days, at night time, you know, we'd just drift and dream. We never anchored up anywhere. We specifically kept away from the island. You know, we were right out, way past the Middlesex and that sort of thing. And at night time, I'd see the swordies around. So I'd set up a circle tuna hook with a whole squid on it, light stick a fathom away from the hook, and I'd chuck it over the side and just connect it up to, we'd have these big barrels of 8mm rope. So I'd just, you know, which we use for our anchors on our long lines. So I'd just chuck that over the side. I'd have one down about 15 metres and one down about 50 metres. And I'd set that up, I'd set it up on a little breakaway, which was basically a bit of trace tied to the handrail. And then we have these big hard floats that we use to keep our gear suspended off the bottom. So I'd set up a couple of those along the deck and go to bed. And you could guarantee at 2 o'clock in the morning you'd hear this bang, 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 bang as the floats went over the handrail, you know. So I'd jump up out of bed in my undies and I'd run out on deck and bury the hook, you know, and that sort of thing. And I'd be yelling to the crew, you know, oi, oi, get up, you know, and of course they wouldn't get up.
Oh, we'll sleep, mate.
Yeah, or the pretenders, I knew they could hear me because I'd be cursing. So I'd end up handlining these swordies by myself, and you get some bloody big ones too.
Yeah.
But, you know, the great thing with 8mm rope is you can take your time. So,
Crazy.
So yeah, no, they were a good time. We had a lot of adventures, found a lot of new ground.
And so, like, you know, the guys that are fishing, you know, I mean, Three Kings is great, but for most trailer boat guys, it's, you know, where are they prospecting? What are the sorts of the depths that they want to look at?
Well, for your blue nose and pooker, particularly blue nose, you really want to start at 350 down to 550, and you will find the smaller fish will be on top of the knobs. As I said to Cam the other day, you want to be on the side of a sea match, and you'll see them. You'll see the upside down haystacks. And for us, traditionally, I used to shoot my gear at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd normally shoot 3 lines at 1 in the morning. First day of the trip, I'd shoot through the depth. So I'd start at 350 and shoot down to 550. And as you haul your gear, you just look at your sound and right they're in 520 metres. And then the next shot, I'd shoot along the contour at 520 metres.
So not necessarily sitting on top of a pin. But
Very seldom are. So you'll get the smaller, normally you'll get the Alphonsino sitting on top of the hill, and it's or gemfish. And that's
gemfish,
and that's what you're seeing.
Well, I did a trip last year and we just plagued with jimmies out the back of the
but it's an underrated fish too. You know, it's good eating.
Don't get me wrong.
It's bloody good eating. Beautiful
like your wife
smoked.
says, it's not blue nose.
Exactly. Yeah. So we always used to look on the side of a hill, and generally, I used to work in sort of 500 metres because I was looking for the bigger females. You know. So yeah, you really want to be looking at the steeper side of a seamount as well. But I used to shoot at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd start hauling just on daylight, and if I was quick enough, I'd be able to haul up the first line, shoot it back again by 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'd get another go at that morning
same.
bite. And the key thing with blue nose, and I know it's slightly different for the recreational guys, but for us as a commercial guy, like I've done like literally millions of hooks in that fishery, and we know that by 11 o'clock in the morning, I won't bother shooting after that, and I'll actually see it. So you'll see it if you've got a good sounder. You'll see this white and blue fleck around 550 metres, which is basically your squid line, squid and all your microorganisms. And you'll see about lunchtime, they start to lift off the bottom, and they'll start coming off, and you'll see it clearly on your sounder. You'll see them slowly start lifting off, and you'll see the blue nose will lift off as well. So you'll see the schools of, if you look at the blue nose in the morning, they're essentially not quite hard down. If you look at it at lunchtime, if you look at it at lunchtime, they're 50 metres, 70 metres off the bottom. And they'll carry on going up, and they're basically chasing the squid. Yeah, so they'll chase it up to about 100, 150 metres off the bottom, and then they'll chicken out and they'll run down back to the bottom. And that squid line, that's essentially, it's called the vertical migration. So that's that migration every day. You'll get the fish rising up, microorganisms rising up to feed on the phytoplankton. So they'll go up so far and then they'll run down. So I always, and for me it's always a numbers game. We've tried doing afternoon sets, we've tried doing evening sets, the numbers don't stack up. So we always try and do our blue nose in the mornings because they're hard down,
What you talk about with blue nose, is it equally the same with the pucker?
No, pucker's a bit different. I mean, I've had massive bass in 500 metres, but your pucker are a bit shallower. I've had them in 80 metres, particularly out at the Chatham Islands. So 80 metres down to sort of 350 metres is basically your target species, target area. And the big thing with pucker is look for the nastiest piece of ground on the hill. So if you're on a seamount, look for those steep vertical faces.
Big drops.
But the biggest thing you've got to remember with pucker and blue nose is that they will be on the side. So if you've got a seamount like that and the current's going that way, they will be on the side that the current is hitting. So they'll hit that side. That's where the current's hitting that side. That's where your pucker and blue nose is going to be. Yeah, because a lot of people think, they'll be on the back side of it. So as all the food's rotting over, they're sitting on the back of it. Well, they actually starve to death because they're swimming like hell, trying to keep up with the current, Whereas you'll see on the side it hits, it basically creates a back eddy. And quite often you'll see the harpooker, little haystacks on your sounder, you'll see them sitting right on that edge. So if you come up to your seamount and do your dummy, so chuck it out of gear and just watch your drift. Keeping in mind if you're in a trailer boat, you've got very shallow draft, so you're going to get influenced by your wind and swell. But essentially you'll be able to work out, even if you do a dummy drop, you'll work out on your first drift which way you're going, and then work out your current and get onto that side. And you'll see it when you steam around the seamount. You'll say, right over, current's hitting his face. Sure enough, you'll steam around that whole seamount. When you get to the face that the current's hitting, you'll see them sitting right there. You'll see that haystack. And it's normally right on the edge or just below that edge because they get that back eddy. So essentially they're not swimming. We're just sitting there in that back eddy.
Just cruising.
Yeah, just cruising, And it's the same, we have the same thing with tuna, they don't want to be expending too much energy, to be feeding. So that's a big thing for it. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I'm sure that'll really help a bunch of people.
Well, and that's a key thing is if you work out that current, you'll see the fish straight away, and they look like basically like a snapper mark. You'll see that hard haystack sitting on the bottom. And
if they're not at the reef or they're not at the spot, keep moving.
Yep. You've got to move around, and again, you've got to remember the pressure too. Is it now that everyone's got GPSs, is it an area that's fished quite hard, or is it out, an area that no one really fishes a lot?
Where there's more pressure.
It's totally, mate. And that's what I find. A lot of guys keep going back to the same seamounts, and they're not doing themselves any favours. You've got to farm your seamounts, and that's the way we look at it as well. And I try and tell the young commercial guys, doesn't matter how good a day you have, do your day, move to the next seamount. Do a circuit, because it's like anything. If you keep thrashing one area,
Well, I imagine, I certainly know that harpooker are slower.
Yeah. Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
What about blue nose? Do you know much about their, how long
they're fast growing. I don't know their age range, but they are fast growing. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, Blueno's definitely my target species.
Super tasty.
Love it,
love
mate.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
You've spent a number of years in the tuna fishery.
Yeah, so I actually didn't have much time for the tuna fishery when it first started. As I say, that decade during the 90s, I just carried on doing the Bluenos. You know, and I had a massive amount of quota, and away I went. And I ended up buying a boat that had tuna gear on it. It was very good gear. It was Lid Green Pitman gear from the States. And I was going to take it off. And a good friend of mine said, "Oh, you know, you never know. You might like that. Don't get rid of it." So I thought, "Oh yeah, I'll leave it on." And then I was out Poor Nights. I was out at the Poor Nights, and I think we'd arrived during the afternoon. And same thing. I didn't want to shoot my gear away until the morning, you know, for that morning bite.
Yeah.
And sort of looked around. Oh, no one's looking. You know, I'll just shoot some of these tuna
the
hooks
tuna
and
gear
see what
out,
all this carry-on's about. You know. And we didn't even have all the proper gear, you know. I think I used 20-litre oil containers for floats and that sort of thing. And I only shot a couple of hundred hooks. Well, I got a big swordie and I got a couple of yellowfin. I thought, oh shit, this is easy. That was me. I was hooked, eh? I was hooked. Yeah. And absolutely love it. It's a fascinating fishery, really fascinating. But you've got to get into the science of it. Now, I'm the sort of guy that I research the hell out of things, you know. So you've really got to go into science because it's one of those fisheries where it's very, very easy to go broke. You know,
Sure.
It's got very high costs. You've got
Ocean's a big place.
Oh yeah, mate. You know, you've got big crew, big bait expenses, big gear expenses, and you know, 3 bad trips, mate. You're at the back door. You know, if you can't afford to pay your fuel bill, you're at the back door. And we saw that with the fisheries in Australia and New Zealand. You know, many guys tried it and very few succeeded. So you've got to know your shit, basically. Otherwise, you're not going to survive very long.
And for the recce guys that are, well, look, there's two sides to it. We've just come out of like phenomenal game season.
Oh, it's been unreal.
2024,
Yeah.
2025 is.
It's interesting because I've been saying this for years, and it wasn't until the southern bluefin fishery kicked off that people started sort of opening their eyes a bit. But I've said for years, hey, we've got a year-long game fishing fishery in New Zealand. Traditionally, the guys in the old days, you know, before the bluefin, the guys would start just after Christmas, and by the end of March, when the striped marlin started to slow down, they'd pack their gold reels away right out to Hapaka and Blueno season, you know, and they'd go into their winter fishery. Now that the southern bluefins sort of kicked in, guys have stayed a bit longer, and now we're sort of starting to see guys fishing right through until November, basically, you know, and there's still game fish here now, you know. Or
That's right.
So it's a year-round fishery.
Yesterday or a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and Cam was saying there was a yellowfin off the back of Mere the other day, so they're still there, you know. And I used to tell guys, you know, we'd be catching striped marlin down off Napier in May. Not now.
Well, I spotted one last May 10 last year off.
I mean, if you look at your sea surface temps, and it's starting, you know, like it's May now, and we're starting to see that now. Slowly but surely, the bodies of warm water are slowly moving offshore, and the striped marlin are going with it. So the stripers are still here; they're just in 500 metres, you know. And again, that might be out of the range of a lot of guys, but those marlin are here. A lot of them stay here all year. You know, it's a year-round fishery. So you've got to look at what New Zealand is, and essentially New Zealand is the food larder for all the pelagic species in the West and South Pacific. So we have the southern bluefin tuna, you know, they do their spawning, so they're finished spawning now, they're on their way here now, well they're here now. They arrive in New Zealand in February, and they're here for one reason, that's to put condition on. You know, so they've done their spawning in the Timor box, which is essentially where I work. In Darwin I work right up by the Indonesian border. So they've done their spawning, they're over here now. When they first arrive, they're all beaten up and skinny. They've been spawning, you know, they've been spawning, and then they've travelled here. They're here solely to feed, and it's the same with your striped marlin, your yellowfin, your big eye. They go up to the South Fiji Basin, they spawn up there, and then they come down the Kermadec Ridge to New Zealand to put on condition, and you'll see it in the fish. I mean, I used to follow them up there, so generally sort of September, October, most of the tuna fleet tie up the boats until February, and you know, they put it through survey or they slip it and do all the R&M.
If you've caught bugger all but still love a good fishing yarn, hit follow. We're just getting started.
I used to follow the fish up the Kermadec Trench up towards the South Fiji Basin. So they go up there and spawn, and we start seeing our first yellowfin. And quite often your first yellowfin arriving in New Zealand arrive off East Cape because they've come down the Kermadec Trench. You would think naturally, righto, the warm water's coming down, we're going to see them off North Cape first.
Because it's warmer up there.
Yeah, but they've actually come down that trench because if you imagine Finding Nemo, you know, they just get the currents and get a free ride down here. So all your pelagic species are here for one reason only, and that's to put on condition. You know, and we're seeing that now. You know, like you look at the first southern bluefin tuna that arrive in New Zealand. They generally arrive around.
I think one was caught. Did you see something 2 days ago?
Yeah, down south.
Yeah. So they're here now.
Sorry, Wellington.
We're getting them in Wellington now. So they'll be off Napier now. It's the weather's just been so shocking this year. You know, no one's had the opportunity to get out there. So they're making their way up the coast now. When they first arrive in sort of February, March, they are skinny. They're like a bloody flounder. You know, I used to find the same thing with the big eye. You know, coming down, and the yellowfin coming down from the South Fiji Basin. When they get down here, they've been spawning, and then they've travelled down here. They are ravenous. You know, once they start coming up, like particularly your bluefin, once they start coming up off Napier, they've been here for a couple of months. They're putting them on condition. You know, and once they round the corner into around East Cape and into the Bay of Plenty, they're normally 60 or 70 kilos. They're put on condition and they're starting to look fat in the tail. You know, you look at a yellowfin or a southern bluefin tuna when they first arrive. They've got a really long skinny tail like a baseball bat. Yeah, like a baseball bat, you know. You look at them July, August when they're up in the Bay of Plenty and starting to move up off Coromandel and Great Barrier. They're fat, you know, it's bulging. You just about think the skin's going to split. They're put on all this condition. They've got that beautiful oil content, you know. So they're here solely to feed, and that's the secret for the New Zealand recreational guys is work out where the bait is.
Yeah, it's probably a great thing to ask you now is, you know, what to look for, where to look in terms of, obviously SSTs, but there is you know, a bunch of factors that contribute to where the bait will be.
There is, and to be honest, the sea surface temps are one of the last things I'll look at. It's more of a confirmation of everything else. So basically you're looking at your currents. So your currents, basically, you'll have these big anti-clockwise currents going on, which is basically formed by your upwellings. So you've got upwellings and downwellings, which is your sea surface height anomalies.
Water moving.
Yeah, so you've got water coming up, which is nutrient rich, and you've got water coming down, which is your nutrient poor stuff. They generate a current. So if you can imagine basically like a tornado or a water spout, but underwater and much bigger scale. So your outside edge of it is your strong currents. What you want to do is where you've got two opposing currents, you're going to get little back eddies, and it's those back eddies that are where your bait's going to, where your bait's going to gather, because they're basically feeding on the phytoplankton. So wherever you get those little back eddies, or you get a little ball that breaks off like a little eddy, it might be 5 miles wide, you know, it breaks off the main body of your sea surface temp. They're the ones you want to be looking for.
They'll be full of.
Yeah, because you've got this ball of warm water, and basically where the cold water is around the edges, it acts like a fence. So your bait won't go through, you know. So, and that's where you'll find your pelagic species are resting. Resting in that warmer nutrient poor water, because they've got better visibility. You know, they don't want to be in the dirty water, but on that edge between where your nutrient poor water is, your warmer water, on that edge is where they'll basically rest in the clear water, race and grab something on that edge, and then come back in and they'll rest again. Yeah, so it's identifying those eddies and where the current's not too strong. Again, it's like your blue nose on the seamounts. The pelagic species tend to stay out of the stronger currents because they're working all day.
Yeah.
You know, so they'll get into those little back eddies. That's where you'll find all the nutrients sort of gathered in one little corner, and that's what you're looking for.
We're now moving into southern bluefin season.
Yeah, exciting times.
It is. You know, we went down last year and I only had one full day, one 3/4 of a day and an evening.
Yeah.
And we worked hard. I mean, we caught 2 fish on the lures, driving around for 12, 16 hours.
Yeah.
And then we got 3 fish jigging in about 3 hours. at night.
Yeah.
So why do you think we did have more success at night?
Well, and again, you've got to be careful here because, like, I'm very aware of, Waihao Bay, you've got the trailer boats and it's, safety-wise, they should be in just before dark. But the whole thing with southern bluefin tuna is that they rise and fall with the feed. There's so many factors involved in it. Like, we base ourselves around the lunar cycle. So on the new moon, essentially, as I was saying before, the dial vertical migration every day. I was saying that with the blue nose,
or the bait fish,
all that squid and all the
squid,
microorganisms that come up to the surface at night, during the new moon, they don't come up as high. So nor do the bluefin. They're down with the feed. And we did we took out some scientists who were studying the stomach contents of southern bluefin tuna, and 30% of their diet is what the hell's it called? Raised bream.
Yeah.
And raised bream's a deep water species, so it's down sort of around 100 metres. So 30% of their diet is raised bream.
It's interesting. The first thing we caught on a jig
was raised bream. Well, there you go. How deep?
About 110.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So they are essentially where the feed is. We base ourselves, so generally with the tuna fleet, and this is worldwide, not just New Zealand and Australia, everywhere in the world, we start our trips around the first quarter. We normally do a full trip. We get in just on the new moon, quick turnaround, back out again, and we'll fish to the last quarter. And then as it comes into the full moon, as it comes to the new moon, that's when we have our trip off, rest the crew, do all our repairs.
So you've got 3 weeks of good fishing.
Yeah, essentially. And if you're really onto it, you'll get 3 trips in.
Yep.
And then on the new moon, the fishing goes quiet. So
for the recce guys, if you're looking at when you go down to Waihao this year, just cross out that week in new moon.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's interesting. I've heard guys that only fish on the new moon, but as I was saying before, I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers just don't stack up. Like, there's not a fisherman commercial tuna fisherman in the world that fishes on that new moon cycle. Mm-hmm. It's just not worth it. The numbers don't stack up. So yeah, we base it around the full moon, and it's basically that feed's coming right up to the surface, and that's why it's the same thing with swordfish. For commercial guys, our best sword fishing is right on that new moon, on that full moon cycle, because the fish are right on the surface. And I see it. Like I've been out there for that bloody long. I can actually see it in the water. I don't even have to look at a lunar calendar to tell you what the moon cycle is.
You used to look at the water.
If you look at the water during a new moon, it's thin. It's like a corona. Mm-hmm. And you look at it full moon, you can see all the microorganisms in the water. It's like a Guinness.
Yeah.
That's the difference to me. I can visually see it. I can tell you what the moon cycle is by looking at the bloody water. That's an experience, right? Yeah, and it's just that much richer. And you see it in your bird life and your dolphins and that sort of thing. It's just that there's just that much more going on that week around that full moon. You will have a slow period. There's normally a day either side of the full moon where it slows down, but that also applies to hāpaka. It also applies to snapper and the Hauraki Gulf. My way of thinking is right on that full moon, it's just too bright and everyone's in defence mode.
That stacks up.
Yeah, everyone is in defence mode, so they're all cautious. But it's generally, and that's why we try and race on that full moon. Try and do a quick turnaround and back out there, so you're back out there a day or so after the full moon, and you rip into it again.
And so for those recce guys that are planning their trips in Waihao,
yep.
Where do you start? What's the first sort of,
first
piece of advice you give someone who wants to go and catch a bluefin this winter?
First thing you look at is your current. What's the current doing? And that'll tell you basically where your bait's going to be. And then you look at your visual signs as well, which we'll be going over in the next couple of days. So your visual signs, your dolphins and your birds. I know it's everyone knows it, but you'd be surprised how many guys are busy looking at Facebook and not looking out the window these days. You've actually got to put the bloody work into it. So if you see dolphins that are frolicking around, well, they've already fed. Yeah. They're such efficient hunters. If you see them all galloping in one direction, go with them.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to go far, and it's the same with your birds. Are your birds diving on a bait ball, or have you got 4 or 5, half the flock sitting on the surface and 4 or 5 just circling, sort of like scouts looking? So your wildlife will tell you what's going on, and then you look for your signs, you know. Are you seeing an upwelling somewhere, you know? So everyone's seen an upwelling, say off Ramfurly Banks or off the Middlesex, where you've got, you might have a bit of a swell and all of a sudden it just jumps up or it goes glassy. You know, you can tell where the upwellings are. Well, you'll get those off seamounts as well. So the seamount might be 700 metres deep.
But you'll still see
But
it
at some point, yeah, so that current has hit that seamount and come up, and it's an upwelling, it's bringing food up with it. And that might be 3 or 4 miles away from the actual top of that seamount by the time the current takes it with it. But, you know, you've got to keep your eyes open. And again, look at, so even if you're just looking at your sea surface temps, you've got to look for, as I say, look for those little eddies breaking off, you know. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes you'll just have one big body of water and just a hard line. But where you've got that temperature change, it's anywhere where you see something dramatic. So you get a dramatic temperature change, start zigzagging across that change, and you'll find your fish. Now, most of your plotters these days, you can track. So you can track, say, depth, or a lot of them these days, you can track your temperatures.
Yep.
Turn that on, and wherever you get a steep change in colour on your plotter, on your track trail, start zigzagging along that, and all of a sudden you'll actually map that edge of that temperature share, work that temperature share, you know, and it's
And fishing through a tide, all that kind of thing, is still very, very
well.
relevant?
Essentially, tides are a coastal thing. You know, the offshore currents, which are caused by your anomalies and your upwellings and downwellings, they're there. You know, I do forecasting on that forecast site, and I've seen areas off Sydney where there's been a sea surface height anomaly or a big ball of current. It's been sitting there for months. You know, and there's another one down off Tasmania. It just sits there for months and months and months.
So it's not such a daily or hourly
No,
thing, it's just that's where...
and people, so I'll give people information, say here's a longitude and latitude for what I think is going to be a good area, and I'll say, oh yeah, but how, you know, that was 2 days ago, where's that mark now? Well, it hasn't really moved that much, because yes, you might have a current that's doing 3 knots, but if you imagine
it's doing that anti-clockwise thing you're talking about,
yeah,
right?
but if you imagine, say, a cyclone, you know, obviously a bigger scale, but yeah, sure, a cyclone, the outside winds might be 150 miles an hour, but the actual cyclone itself is not moving. You know, it might be moving at 2 miles an hour. You know, so yep, the outside. So you imagine that as a current. That current's going around and around and around, but the actual body of water is not moving at all. You know, or might be moving a mile or 2 miles at a time. You know, so that body of water will stay there for quite a long time. So it's not as if right over the current's doing 3 knots, that whole body of water is buggering off down to the south at 3 knots. It's not.
Yeah.
You know, it'll stick in that one area. So, and it's all driven by those upwellings and downwellings.
Probably a good segue for us to mention your product and, you know, what your offering is, because before you do, I'm going to, anyone who's watching or listening, I'm going to just give a bit of kudos to TK's product here. So I subscribed over summer, and to Marlin, literally the first day that I'll tell you, the first day I went out on your, was out the side of the Aldermans.
Right.
The first, yeah, there's his mark, okay, put that in my thing. And
yep.
Drove out there, and I got out there, and it was very obvious where it went to the good water.
Yes.
So...
And see, that's your visual clues.
Right.
You know.
So it was obvious, that it was very clear. The second thing was birds, man, tons of birds. And they're all head down, looking down. And I'm like...
This is what Cameron found at the Aldermans.
Something is going to happen.
Yes, yeah.
And so I rigged up the stick bait and just started working.
Yeah.
And within, I'm going to say 5 to 10 minutes, there's yellowfin.
Awesome.
Now, I didn't get one.
Yeah, yeah. But you know you're on the right spot, eh?
Your mark was, I would be within 300-400 metres of where you'd see.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea of it is, you know, so we've set up a subscription site called the Offshore Crew. You'll see it on all our social media. And essentially it's I give a forecast Tuesdays and Fridays. The Friday ones, you know, so everyone's got the marks for the weekends. And essentially I'll look at it, and I look at it from a commercial perspective. You know, I look at it right after, if I was in that area, where would I be shooting my gear? You know, and it's, it's almost 3 decades I've been doing the tuna, you know, and you just know, it gets to the stage where you can basically bloody smell them, you know. I'll look
It's like
at
the
a-
Matrix for you now, isn't
It
it?
is, mate. I'll look at a temperature and go there, 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 and there, and there, and that's essentially what I do. So I give the subscribers marks and longitude and latitude, and say, right, I have a look there. And the key thing is, you know, as I was saying before, with say a little anomaly that's broken off, a little eddy that's broken off the main body of water, I'll put an event in the middle of it. What you want to do is, you know, as I was saying before, you'll find that the fish will be around that area, and they'll either be on the cold side or on the warm side, and it changes from area to area. Don't just wait until you get right up to the mark I've given you and then put your lures out. You want to be towing, you know, within 5 miles of that mark. You want to have your lures out because they'll be somewhere in that general region. So what I'm saying is, right, there's going to be bait around that area.
Yep.
There's going to be bait around this area. And what it does is it gives guys a head start, you know. Everyone knows that it's a bloody expensive fishery to be in, you know, filling up your fuel tanks, and it's quite intimidating. So you look at it and go, right, I was at the Gamefishing Club 2 nights ago, and George caught a marlin between the Aldermans and Mare Island on 120 metres. You know,
big area.
That's all they've got. Yeah, that's all they've
area.
got. So it gives guys a head start. And I'm not saying right to go to the exact mark and you're going to get a fish, although it does happen.
And a lot of guys are pretty secretive about their marks, so it's, it makes it challenging for someone who's new to the sport.
It does, and I try and encourage guys to actually share the marks. You know, it's what's it costing you? Say, hey mate, you know, I've just hooked up here. We've got our southern bluefin tuna for the day. Come on over, guys. You know, I used to watch guys. You know, I used to fish at the Wanganellas. I fished up the Wanganellas for 5 years exclusively. It's the only place I fished. And I left the viaduct in February and the Nationals were on. So I steamed up the coast and I'd see a cluster off lee. I'd see a cluster of boats all in a like sheep, all a tight ball of fish. As I got off Whangarei and Tutakaka, I'd see another bull.
Like a kids' footy game.
Yeah, so you see them on the radar, you know, you see 20 boats in a small area, you know, and then you get off Bay of Islands, another 20 boats, you get off Hohora, another 20 boats, all in one tight area because George had caught a fish here 3 days ago. You're better off working as a team and say, righto, I'll be on the 90 metre lines, you know, and say, righto, with the wind conditions, we're all going to move, we're all going to tow to the north, righto, work out a grid and say, right, I'll be on the 90 metre, I'll be on the 100, another boat will be on the 110. Share the information. Right, I'm on 130 metres and I'm hooked up. Yeah, well, I'm on 140, I'm hooked up too. Share the information. It's costing you nothing and it's not a competition. Sure, you know, when the comps are on, you do your own thing, but it's not a competition. You know, you want to share the love.
It'd be good to see more of that.
I think it's slowly getting that way, I really do.
Quite a number of days this winter. And guys, I'll text you, I'll call you, or where I was yesterday, and it's like, you know, anyone who's listening is like, oh, well, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, right?
What's it costing you to help out a fellow fisher, you know, really?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I do. Like, I enjoy sharing the knowledge with everyone, you know. It costs me nothing to do it.
And so for those people that subscribe, that join your site,
they
can jump in. There's other people in there as well they can communicate with, talk with.
And that's what we're finding is we've actually got a really good community going, and they don't need me. You know, so someone will say, right, I'm heading out off the Bay of Islands this week, anyone else going out? And they talk to each other. And same thing, right, I hooked up over here, you know, on TK's mark number 33. Right, I share that information with everyone else. You know, it's costing you nothing. So
yeah, well, look, another buddy of mine, like I said to you earlier, 4 marlin from your marks.
From the marks,
over the summer.
And that's the cool thing about it. And we also, I've been very time poor lately, but I try and get on, particularly over the weekends, and we'll have a live feed where we'd have Q&As, you know, and same thing, we just basically shoot the ship, have a yak, you know, how you been getting on over here, and and it might be middle of winter and someone's saying, righto, I'm looking at going out and doing some...
Where's the tunas?
Yeah, some tuna, or I'm going out and doing some harpooker fishing, you know, what do you suggest, TK? Now, it's different with the harpooker and kingies, that sort of thing. I won't give away marks.
Because, I especially think for those fish, that's why I was asking you, I think, around the prospecting side things. So it's, again, learn for yourself.
Yeah,
right,
and that's the thing. Like,
go here, catch a fish.
Yeah, like if I give away a mark, there's going to be bloody 20 boats on the one hill and they'll clean it out, you know. So again, just share the knowledge. Say, hey guys, if you're going to be doing harpooker and blue nose, this is what you want to be looking for, and then let them find their own fish. You know, and that's half the buzz too. Is I went out by my bloody self and found something. You know, and that's
fishing. That's why we do it.
And that's the neat thing about it. You know, and make sure no one else is eventing while you're doing it.
Oh yeah, I guess it's you know, there's a balance between sharing and
well, common sense kicks in, eh?
Yeah.
You know, common sense kicks in, but yeah. And I'm finding that the community is getting better all the time, eh? You know, it's constantly evolving. It's bloody neat. You know, we found that with the bluefin, the southern bluefin, when it first started, whatever it was, 7-8 years ago. There was a bull rush mentality. You know, everyone was going out and killing everything they could. You know. And I actually talked to Grant Dixon from New Zealand Fishing News about it, you know, when it first happened. And he sort of said, oh, you know, you need to sort of post something about everyone, you know, just settle down a bit, you know. And I said, well, I can't.
There's a lot of meat on one thing.
And I said, I can't, you know, you can't have a commercial guy saying, hey, recreational guys, you know, slow down a bit, you know. It had to be industry-led, and that's what's happened. You know, you look at the recreational guys. Most guys have been out and caught a swordfish these days. Most guys have been out and caught their southern bluefin. Now they're starting to get into the sport of it. You know, whereas in the old days they basically landed everything they could, filled up the bloody freezer. You know, whereas now they'll catch one fish and let the rest go.
One eater and everything else.
Yeah, and they're getting into the sport of it. So you know, when it first started, everyone was just tying lures. Now everyone's starting to get into the jigging and that sort of thing. And
hey, if you enjoyed that one, we'd really appreciate it if you give us a like or a subscribe. It really helps us to keep things going. We've got some awesome chats on the way, and if you've got a really good yarn about your caught bugger all experience out on the water, we want to hear it. Get in touch. It's fun.
Top water fishing.
It's fun.
Yeah, top water fishing for it. You know, one thing I'd also say about that is, you know, you see it a lot, particularly in the States, is the cubing. You know,
chumming.
Yeah. You know, it doesn't really work that well with southern bluefin because part and parcel of a southern bluefin fishery are blue sharks.
Ah, yes.
You know, particularly in 16 degrees. Where you find southern bluefin, you're going to find blue sharks. So if you start chumming up, you're going to get blue sharks. You're going to
get orcas
too. And you'll get the orcas and the pilot whales and so I wouldn't advise, you know, much as and I've done it myself.
Well, you don't need to. I mean, we just look. There's the bait, 110 metres, drop it down.
Yep.
Boom off.
Yep. And again, it's understanding your sounder too. You know, marking the fish on your sounder. You know, if you see a good sign, event it. You know, so at the very least you can come back to it. And yeah, just working your sounder. You know, and we've all seen wicked tuna. We all know what they look like on a sounder. Yeah. And away you go.
So for you're 40 years in the trade, and what's the future for TK?
Oh, eventually I'll retire. Look, I'm really enjoying the fishing over in Darwin. Great company, great bunch of people. But at some stage I'll retire from commercial fishing and I'll go charter fishing. So I won't stop fishing.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have to basically cut me off in a coffin. I love it. I'm still fit and well. So I'm looking forward to going back charter fishing at some point. Yeah.
So you'll take guys out.
Yeah, take guys out. And again, you're sharing the knowledge and it's just having fun.
A lot of the learnings that I've had is going on paid charters.
Yep, absolutely.
And you talk to the skipper, you talk to the decky, and you really, it's a quick way to upskill yourself.
Yeah, and I'll be looking at doing that too, also doing master classes. So, you know, I'll say, righto, we're going to go out for 3 or 4 days, we're going to study whatever species, be it harpooker, blue nose or southern bluefin tuna. But instead of just doing a charter where, you know, they're just to catch it, actually have them up in the wheelhouse and spend, you know, not be fishing the whole time, but actually spend time teaching them about the fishery, about the, you know, as I was saying before, about the vertical migration of bait every day, you know, and when's the best time to look for it, what to look for, what signs to look for. So, you know, they come out with me and get as much knowledge as they can from me, and away they go themselves. Yeah, and it's good fun because it's, you know, at the end of the day, you end up being mates with people, you know, and it's great, and they come back the next year, you know. So I'm looking forward to it at some point, and just hanging out with Cam, you know.
Yeah. Cam's got a big change coming, which is exciting.
Yeah, Cam's got a new baby on the way, so.
Try and get as much fishing in all
Mate.
before then as we can.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to, mate.
Yeah.
I did exactly the same
Yeah.
because, you know,
So you've got a new child.
four weeks
so,
old,
yeah.
and I did so many fishing trips over summer just to,
Yeah.
you know, try to get that out of it. And, you know, it was a pretty successful summer. I was really wrapped.
It's been a weird year. I mean, it's been phenomenal. I mean, you know, we had, well, you look at it, end of last season, you know, we had southern bluefin tuna, and all of a sudden we had the northerns.
Right, the guys are live baiting for them.
Yeah, you know, up by Matt Watson's neighbourhood, you know, they had the northerns there. And again, we've always had them. I mean, I won't say that. I won't give away too many secrets, but now that people are game fishing, I mean, who thought that you'd be fishing in August, September, October?
Yeah.
You know, it was unheard of. But now that guys are actually out there doing it, they're going, oh my God, there's fish here. You know, they've always been here. You know, and particularly, you know, a lot of guys said, oh, you know, I've never seen them in that shallow. Well, you've never looked there.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Everyone's either chasing snapper or chasing pooker and blue nose.
Or kiggies, right?
Yeah, you know, they're always, again, there obviously was a big concentration of bait in that area at that time. The fish aren't worried about depth. You know, everyone will say, oh, what depth did you catch your southern bluefin tuna in? Well, it's actually irrelevant. You know, the depths are irrelevant. I mean, you look at the fisheries in Canada and that sort of thing for the Pacific bluefin, you know, they're anchored. You know, they're in 40, 50 metres. Look at the wicked tuna guys, you know, they're in the shallows, they're anchored, chasing the tuna. So if you're not worried...
Well, you see those Japanese guys stick baiting off the wharfs.
Oh, exactly. They had it last year in Portland and Victoria. They had southern bluefin underneath the wharf.
Yeah.
Right inside the harbours.
Brooksy
Yeah.
from Aussie did that trip to the States to chase them. And they spent 3 days out wide, didn't catch one. They went into the harbour, chucked a bait over in the harbour and caught like a monster one in the harbour.
Caught a big fish, yeah. So it's not depth specific. Again, I keep going back to find the bait, find the fish.
Yeah.
You know, they are here to gorge, you know. And you'll see that.
Well, I think you said about the signs too. You know, I was fortunate enough to catch a marlin while I was out there out west, and it was not much going on.
Yeah.
And on the radio, people were saying 75 metres. Thought, okay, we'll push out a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was only the birds circling.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go there, and hooked it out there.
Yep.
Slowed it up right before it, straight through the middle. Bang.
Bang. Game on.
And you know,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
it's not just like you say. It's not just your charts. It's not just your depth. It's
Yeah.
all of these factors.
Like I know year after year, you know, I'd fish out of Manukau, and I was saying it on the Offshore Crew on the subscription site, you know, righto, you guys, if you're fishing out of Manukau in February, get to the 50 metre line, head for piha, and you're going to hook up on a yellowfin.
Yeah.
And I had guys when I first started the site off Raglan saying, you know, I was saying the same thing, and they're saying, oh no, we've never
Water's too
caught
dirty,
fish
yeah.
under 100 metres, you know. I said, put the lures out, and sure enough, they hooked up. You know, so
Yeah, I had one got caught at 39 metres off
yeah,
Manukau.
yeah,
So it's still in
And
the
again,
bar.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's wherever the food is, that's where they're going to be.
So great segue there, food.
Yeah.
Because I'm mad about eating fish, right? We, you know,
Oh.
we go out and we do all this hard money to get them.
Yeah.
So what's your favourite? Obviously, we know it's blue nose. What's your favourite way to enjoy it?
Honestly, particularly if you're, say you're bottom dwelling species, you know, like blue nose and pooker and that sort of thing, I dust it in flour and pan fry it in butter.
There you go.
That's the only way I
There
cook
you
it,
go.
you know. I mean, I've got, I'm a huge fan of kokonda or kokoda, which is, you know,
Cute.
basically ceviche, you know, raw fish. So with my raw fish, it's marinated in lime juice for a couple of hours. Dice up your tomatoes, you know, your capsicums, spring onions, red onion. Chuck it all in there. Coconut cream, not coconut milk. I have it. And
You do that with your blue nose as well?
Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, so I eat it every trip up in Darwin. So I'll grab. It's called gold band snapper, which is very similar to the New Zealand snapper in fillet and taste. I'll do it with gold band snapper. I do it every week, and the other one is baked. Bake a gold band snapper. I've got a barbecue grill that Cobb Grill gave us.
Grill, yeah.
Yeah, so I wrap it in foil, lemongrass, And essentially, try and do it at the beginning of a trip because we're out for 2 weeks, so everything starts to get old and wrinkly like me.
yeah.
You know, so get into your capsicums while they're still fresh. You know, same thing. Stuff your gut cavity, wrap it in foil and bake it. Yeah, but I like, you know, even swordfish. Most of my fish, I dust it in flour and pan cook them.
Simple.
I just like.
I love it.
Yeah, and
you don't
I like
need
the
to be
variance
super
in-
fancy. It's,
Yeah, and I like the variance in taste. You know, I want to taste each species. You know, so yeah, I keep it really simple. But yeah, if I'm getting exotic, I'll bake a fish.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's a big part of the whole reason. And I think for not just me, but a lot of guys,
Totally.
it's go
you know,
out and get a
it's-
feed,
and
piece
it's-
over the fence.
It's
and,
basically a Kiwi tradition. You know, you go out and you bring home a feed for the family. You know, and that's the great thing about the way the New Zealand fishery is structured. You know, you're allowed to go out and do that. You know, without being a bloody idiot about it. You know, go out and get a feed.
We're very blessed with what
We
we've
are.
got
We're
here.
so lucky, mate. You know, and the way I look at it, if you're bringing home enough feed for yourself and your family, granddad and the neighbour over the fence, that's enough. You know,
Exactly.
Like for us, for my crew, in the fisheries where we're actually allowed to take home fish, a lot of fisheries are not allowed to. In New Zealand, we're allowed to take home fish. I reckon a bread bag of fillets
Yep.
is enough for each guy. It's more than enough.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yep.
For people that are wanting to find you, your sites, your websites.
Yep, so the offshore, so the subscription site is the offshorecrew.online, and you can catch us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course YouTube.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, TK Offshore.
Yeah, perfect.
TK Offshore Fishing.
Cool. And I think finally we just want to say a massive thanks to Farnley's Yamaha, James. We really appreciate
Sure,
using your space. And
Yeah, for sure.
that was a really fun chat, TK. I
Yeah.
really appreciate your time, mate.
Awesome, mate. Good to catch up again.
Hey, cheers for tuning in to Get the Net. If you want to see the show notes, which includes the recipes and the gear we've talked about today, head on over to the episode description on Spotify and we'll catch you on the next one.